Drinking alcohol, smoking, and drug use are harmful to health.
The storm came without warning, a bruise-colored wall of clouds that swallowed the Wyoming sky. Mara Quinn gripped the steering wheel of her battered Jeep, her knuckles white as the wind howled, pelting the windshield with rain, so thick it felt like driving through a car wash. The radio crackled, spitting static between snatches of a country song, but she didn't bother to turn it off. It was the only sound keeping her company on this lonely stretch of Highway 287. She was 3 hours from Casper, heading to a freelance journalism gig, an exposé on a shuttered Cold War-era research facility rumored to have been more than it seemed. The tip came from an anonymous source, a cryptic email with just enough detail to hook her. They never shut it down, they just hid it better. Mara, always chasing the next big story, couldn't resist. But now, with the storm turning the road into a river and her phone's GPS glitching out, she was starting to regret it. The radio hissed again, louder this time, and a voice broke through. Not the DJ, but something else. Low, garbled, almost mechanical. Coordinates: 42, north. Signal active. Mara frowned, leaning closer to the dashboard. The voice cut off, replaced by a piercing whine that made her wince. She smacked the radio, and it fell silent. "Great," she muttered, squinting through the deluge. The headlights barely cut through the rain, illuminating only a few feet of asphalt. Then, out of the corner of her eye, she saw it, a flicker of light to her left, deep in the scrubland. It wasn't lightning. It was too steady, too deliberate, like a beacon pulsing in the dark. She slowed the Jeep, peering into the storm. The light flashed again, rhythmic, almost Morse-like. Her journalist's instinct kicked in, that insatiable curiosity that had gotten her into trouble more times than she could count. She glanced at the dashboard clock. 9:47 p.m. No bars on her phone, no service for miles. Whatever was out there, she was on her own. Against her better judgment, Mara turned off the highway onto a dirt track that barely qualified as a road. The Jeep jostled over ruts, mud sucking at the tires. The light grew brighter as she approached, revealing a chain-link fence topped with barbed wire, half swallowed by weeds. Beyond it stood a low concrete building, its windows dark, except for that single pulsing light coming from somewhere inside. She parked, grabbed her flashlight and notebook from the passenger seat, and stepped into the storm. The rain soaked her instantly, plastering her dark hair to her face. The fence gate hung ajar, its padlock rusted and broken. A faded sign read, "Restricted area, no trespassing." Below it, in fresher paint, someone had scrawled, "Turn back." Mara hesitated, her pulse quickening. She'd seen enough horror movies to know this was a bad idea, but the story, the truth, was worth the risk. She pushed through the gate, the metal creaking ominously, and approached the building. The door was steel, heavy, with a keypad that looked long dead. She shoved it, expecting resistance, but it swung open with a groan. Inside, the air was stale, thick with the smell of mildew and something metallic. Her flashlight beam swept across a hallway lined with peeling paint and rusted lockers. The pulsing light came from deeper within, accompanied now by a low hum, like a generator struggling to stay alive. "Hello?" she called, her voice echoing. No answer, just the hum and the distant drip of water. She moved forward, her boots squeaking on the wet linoleum. The hallway led to a larger room, its walls covered in faded maps and charts, pins marking locations she didn't recognize. In the center sat a console, a relic of Cold War tech, dials, switches, and a single green screen flickering with static. The pulsing light came from a bulb above it, flashing in sync with the hum. Mara approached the console, her heart pounding. The screen flickered, and for a moment, she thought she saw words forming in the static. "You shouldn't be here." She blinked, and they were gone. A trick of the light, she told herself, but her hands trembled as she jotted it down in her notebook. Then the hum stopped. The silence was deafening, pressing against her eardrums. The bulb went dark, plunging the room into shadow. Her flashlight flickered, and panic clawed at her chest. "Come on," she whispered, smacking the flashlight against her palm. It flared back to life, revealing something new. A door in the far wall, slightly ajar, that she hadn't noticed before. She crossed the room, her breath shallow. The door led to a stairwell descending into darkness. The air grew colder as she went down, the metallic smell stronger now, almost like blood. At the bottom, she found another room, this one lined with glass panels like observation windows. Beyond them was a chamber, empty except for a single chair bolted to the floor, its armrests fitted with leather straps. Medical equipment, syringes, monitors, things she couldn't identify, lay scattered on a table nearby. "What the hell is this place?" she whispered, her voice barely audible. A noise behind her, a soft shuffle, like footsteps. She spun, flashlight sweeping the room. Nothing, just shadows. But the air felt different now, heavier, like someone was watching. She backed toward the stairs, her pulse hammering in her ears. Then the radio in her Jeep blared to life, audible even from here. That same garbled voice, louder now. Intruder. Containment. Protocol. Mara froze. She hadn't left the radio on. She hadn't even left the car door open. She bolted up the stairs, through the console room, and back into the storm. The Jeep's headlights were on, the radio screaming static, and that mechanical voice. "Initiate lockdown. Initiate lockdown." She threw herself into the driver's seat, fumbling for the keys. The engine roared to life, but as she shifted into reverse, something slammed against the passenger window. Mara screamed, her flashlight falling to the floor. In the brief flare of the headlights, she saw it. A figure, humanoid but wrong, its face obscured by a hood, its limbs too long, too thin. It pressed against the glass, its fingers splayed, leaving streaks of something dark and viscous. Then it was gone, vanishing into the rain. She floored the gas, the Jeep fishtailing as she sped back toward the highway. The radio kept blaring, the voice now chanting coordinates that matched the facility's location. Her phone, still useless, buzzed in her pocket, the screen flashing random symbols. She didn't stop to check it. She didn't stop at all until she reached a gas station 50 miles away. Its neon sign, a beacon of safety. Inside, the clerk, a grizzled man named Hank, looked up from his newspaper. "You okay, miss? Look like you seen a ghost." Mara, soaked and shaking, tried to explain. The facility, the light, the voice, the figure. Hank's face darkened. "You went to the old comm station? Shouldn't have done that. Folks round here don't talk about it. Bad history." "What kind of history?" she asked, her voice hoarse. Hank leaned closer, his voice low. "Cold War stuff, government experiments, signals, frequencies, things to mess with your head. They said it was shut down in '89, but people still see lights out there. Hear things. Some don't come back." Mara's stomach twisted. "What do you mean, don't come back?" Hank shrugged, his eyes darting to the window. "Just gone. Like the place eats them." She didn't sleep that night, holed up in a motel room with the lights on. Her notebook opened to the page where she'd written, "You shouldn't be here." The next morning, she called her editor, Mark, and told him everything. He was skeptical but intrigued. "Get me proof," he said. "Photos, documents, anything. This could be huge." Mara knew she should leave it alone. Every instinct screamed to drive back to Denver and forget the whole thing. But the story, the truth, was a siren call she couldn't ignore. She bought a new flashlight, a crowbar, and a cheap disposable camera from the gas station, then headed back to the facility. The storm had cleared, leaving the air crisp and the sky unnaturally clear. The facility looked less menacing in daylight, just a crumbling relic of a bygone era. But the gate was closed now, the padlock new and shiny. Someone had been here since last night. She pried the gate open with the crowbar and slipped inside. The building was as she'd left it, the console room unchanged except for one detail. The green screen was off, the bulb above it dark. She snapped photos, her hands steady despite the dread pooling in her gut. The stairwell beckoned, and though every fiber of her being screamed to turn back, she descended. The observation room was different now. The chair was gone, the medical equipment neatly arranged, as if someone had tidied up. The glass panels reflected her flashlight beam, but behind them, she saw something new. Scratches, deep and jagged, like claw marks. And on the table, a single sheet of paper, handwritten, "Stop looking. You're not safe." Mara's breath caught. She stuffed the note into her pocket and backed away, her flashlight beam darting around the room. That shuffle again, closer this time. She spun, and there it was. The figure from last night, standing in the doorway. Its hood obscured its face, but its eyes glinted in the flashlight's glow. Too bright, too wrong. It moved toward her, its gait jerky, like a puppet on strings. She ran, her boots pounding the stairs. The figure didn't chase, but she felt its presence, a weight on her back. She burst into the console room, and the screen flickered to life, displaying a single word: run. She didn't need to be told twice. She sprinted to the Jeep, her heart in her throat. As she peeled out, she glanced in the rearview mirror. The figure stood at the gate, motionless, watching her go. Back in Casper, she developed the photos at a 1-hour shop. Most were blurry, useless, but one showed the console room clearly. The screen, the maps, the bulb, and in the corner, barely visible, a shadow that hadn't been there when she took the shot. It had the same 2 long limbs, the same hooded silhouette. Mara sent the photos and her notes to Mark, along with a draft of the story. He called her an hour later, his voice tense. "Mara, this is incredible, but we can't run it." "What? Why not?" she demanded. "There's pressure. From above. They're saying it's a matter of national security. I don't know who's pulling the strings, but they want this buried." Mara hung up, fury mixing with fear. She uploaded the photos and her draft to an encrypted server, just in case. That night, her motel room phone rang. She answered, expecting Mark, but it was that voice again, mechanical and cold. "You were warned. Coordinates acquired. Containment imminent." She yanked the cord from the wall, grabbed her things, and fled. She drove all night, checking her mirrors for that figure, for anything. By dawn, she was in Denver, her apartment a sanctuary she wasn't sure she could trust. She locked the door, drew the curtains, and sat with her laptop, the cursor blinking on an empty document. Then her phone buzzed. No caller ID. She didn't answer, but a voicemail appeared anyway. She played it, her hands shaking. Static, then the voice. "You can't hide. The signal is in you now." Mara froze. The room felt too small, the air too thick. She grabbed her keys, ready to run again, but stopped. Her reflection in the mirror, her eyes were wrong. Too bright, too sharp, like the figures. She blinked, and they were normal again. But the panic didn't fade. She didn't know what the facility was, what it had done to her. But she knew one thing. The story wasn't over. The signal was still out there, and it had found her.